Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this on Monday, November 23rd, 2020. So we are days out from Thanksgiving. And so how has your week been going so far, Drew?
Oh, it's great. I've just been buried in work. I think on Thursday I had 6 interviews I had to transcribe and get up on the site. So I've been slowly burning through these, but yeah, it's just a lot of stuff, Jim. Always working.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, I want to say over at Collider, you did a piece on Animaniacs where you talked with the creative team behind that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Wellesley Wild and the other executive producer, and something interesting kind of came up out of that conversation. But they were saying that Freakazoid almost was in the show.
Yes. This is the reboot that launched on Hulu back on November 20th. So we got a season 1 of 13 episodes. And so we're not talking like a cameo, because I know there was that Animaniacs Cartoons Vote episode, and they brought in like the Flintstones and Bugs Bunny and that sort of thing. So this was like Freakazoid on the show, like a regular?
Yeah, because what I said was, that DuckTales has done such a great job, which there's a new DuckTales on tonight, which I'm very excited about. But they said, yeah, that was a plan, and they brought up the Tiny Toons, which obviously is getting its own reboot. But
that it is.
I thought that would be kind of an interesting concept. It's also interesting because have you watched the new ones, Jim?
The new Animaniacs?
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I was just listening to the reboot song, which is supposedly written by the very same team that did the state song and all the music from the previous show, correct?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. But there's no Slappy Squirrel. There's no Good Feathers.
Yeah.
There is that interesting new one with the little girl and the alien. I've only seen 5. They only sent out 5 and I haven't watched the rest, but I thought that was kind of an interesting new story, but
I have to admit, I do miss Slappy. The Good Feathers, I think it was one of those things where, when you're watching Saturday Night Live and it's like they would bring back a character where it's like, I don't think this character actually deserved a second sketch. And that was the thing with the Good Feathers.
Yeah.
And likewise, Buttons and Mindy, just sort of like, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, because that does clear up one of my questions from reading your interview on Collider with these two, because they mentioned that, we were going to potentially bring back Freakazoid, but the actor wasn't available. And it's just sort of like, wait a minute, Paul Rugg, they did that Teen Titans episode on November 14th, Hugbees, right?
Right. Which is hysterical. What a funny episode.
The thing is, I love how totally the Teen Titans people committed, that they didn't just bring back Paul Rugg as the voice of Freakazoid. You got Edward Asner as Cosgrove. In fact, they have that wonderful just deviation in the mid-episode. It's like, hey, Freakazoid, you want to go get donuts? And it's just, and there's that whole break in the middle of the episode where Cosgrove and Freakazoid are sitting, at a coffee shop, and a maple bar is, that's from the Northeast. And it's just committed to the whole Freakazoid aesthetic. In fact, that's half the fun of the episode is Robin is like, no, don't bring back this character. He does crazy gags and he steps away from the plot. And in fact, they make a big deal about Joe Leahy, the gentleman who was the actual announcer for the show. But I had no idea they actually brought back David Warner to do the Loeb.
Yeah.
Oh,
talk about a legend. God. He's great.
The Loeb has like 5 lines in this thing, and the notion that, let's go get David Warner. Let's bring him back into the booth.
You got to do it. There's also some very funny inside jokes when they're going through the old film canisters.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God,
beloved.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not so beloved. 1 season Warner Brothers shows in there. Hysteria, I think it's a shout out amongst others. So yeah,
check
it out.
It does. Just the conveyor belt of things that are going straight into the furnace.
Yeah.
So, no, definitely check that episode out of Teen Titan Go, folks. Huggabees. And speaking of things also to check out, while we were away, we had the debut of the new Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse shorts. And I'm almost kind of hesitant to use the word short, because the original Mickey Mouse shorts that Paul Radish did were 3.5 minutes long?
Yeah, they were 3.5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. And these two that have come out so far on Disney Plus, we have Cheese Wranglers and House of Tomorrow, 9 minutes long.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of fun, but wow, for them, this is really long form. I mean, they also did the holiday special and the Halloween show, so they've done longer form pieces. But as a Disney fan, what did you make of the House of Tomorrow show?
Well, I liked it, and I talked to Paul Ruddish
Mhm.
on an interview that'll be going up tomorrow morning, I think. This is one of the 19 things I was working on, Jim, in the past week. But
Okay.
he talked about how it was liberating for them because in the shorts, it was always sort of, Mickey was always his own foil. Mickey was always getting in his own way. And what was fun about the new ones is that they can actually bring in actual antagonists. Pete and Mortimer supposedly play a big role in this batch of episodes. And I was telling you before the show that there's another episode that I've seen that takes place at a roller disco that Ursula actually is in. And they brought back Pat Carroll to voice Ursula. And it's really, really funny and super fun. And if you've ever visited the Moonlight roller rink over by the studios in Burbank, you will notice where a lot of the art direction comes from in this episode, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Since we're paying a tribute to the folks who do voice work on these things, did you enjoy Alan Tudyk as the voice of the House of the Future?
Oh my God. That moment where they show the shrine that he's made for Minnie and it's just totally horrific. That was so funny. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. Again, these are great fun folks. Definitely worth checking out. And while we're talking about cartoon mice, though, while we were away, we had... Is this the teaser trailer or the first official trailer for Tom and Jerry?
It feels like the first official trailer, but I was waiting for the end of the trailer to say coming next week on HBO Go, kind of like they did for The Witches, which I don't know if have you watched that yet, Jim?
Not yet. Thanksgiving, I'm binging all manner of family-related things because, again, that's what you do at Thanksgiving. What fascinated me over this past week was people were pointing out all of the films that are celebrating anniversaries in November. Moana was released in 2016, Beauty and the Beast back in 1991. People forget this used to be part of Disney's business plan that you would open these new family films literally the day before Thanksgiving or the weekend before Thanksgiving with the notion that, okay, you're home, you come in, you spend time with your family, and after 2 and 3 hours, you're like, I got to get out of here. These kids are driving me crazy. I got to find things to do. It's like, hey, there's a brand new Disney movie down the street. Let's go see that.
Right.
So it seems like a coincidence that all of these movies are opened in this same period of time. No, business plan. Just the fact that you can only spend so much time with your family and relatives before you need to get out of there. It's important to have a new movie in theaters.
Right.
So back to Tom and Jerry. What did we think of this?
I mean, I thought the art style was kind of cool. It sort of reminds me of what ILM did for the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so many years ago, which was the only really impressive part of that movie. But that kind of almost cel-shaded 2D / 3D look is kind of fun. But the movie just looks stupid. And I'm not really sure who is connecting with Tom and Jerry. But
I think I flat out asked you, does Tom and Jerry work in a post Itchy and Scratchy universe? Because Itchy and Scratchy can do everything that Tom and Jerry does, only meaner and more graphic.
They fight and bite, Jim. They fight and bite and fight.
By the way, have you ever seen the photos from Disney MGM where for one summer they had Tom and Jerry walk-around characters?
No, why did they have them?
That fascinates me as well. I've seen just one image of the characters in the park, and this was for, I want to say it's the version of the film where Richard Kind did the voice of Jerry, and who did the voice?
I remember this movie. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
It was just called Tom and Jerry the movie, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to say through some weird tie with Disney, the characters ended up in the park. But I also want to say the young lady, Dana, what's her name, who did the voice of Max for Goof Troop.
Dana Hill.
She did.
Yeah.
There we go. She did Jerry.
Yes.
So.
And that was her final film role, too.
Was it really?
Yeah.
We lost her too soon. And speaking of people we lost too soon, I mean, obviously Tom and Jerry, that's how Joe Barbera and William Hanna actually made their mark at MGM back in the 40s. And then, of course, when MGM shut down its animation unit, they stepped into television animation and became the giants there. But they became the giants there because they had the help of some very, very talented people. And among them were Ken Spears and Joe Ruby. Now, we paid tribute to Joe Ruby back in August of this year. We lost him. He was one of the co-creators of Scooby-Doo. But just early this month, on November 8th, we also lost Ken Spears. And I think when you and I were talking about the Scoob, was it called Scoob?
Scoob, yeah.
Scoob. They did deliberately put tributes in the film to both Ken and Joe. Weren't they like street signs, I want to say?
They were street signs, yeah. And I think where they are eating dinner, I think next to it is the old building, is actually the old Hanna-Barbera building.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
And of course, Scoob got a home premiere back in May of this year. And as long as we're talking of cartoon characters from the 1960s, we have another one headed to the big screen now. We have a Pink Panther movie.
Yeah, but for the first time in a long time, they're actually going to use the animated Pink Panther character, which is very weird. Did you see that the description of it is about a bank robber that suffers a head injury and then sees the character, like interacts with the character?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's an interesting bullet point.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to the folks who are tackling this project, but face it, anyone who saw the opening credits for 1975's Return of the Pink Panther, or 1976, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, those credits were done by Richard Williams, and they were the gold standard. Beautiful animation, really, really funny, especially in The Pink Panther Strikes Again, where it's the Clouseau character pursues the Pink Panther into a movie theater, and kind of in that Buster Keaton-y way that Clouseau actually steps into the screen with the Pink Panther, and then they do tributes to like Frankenstein. And in fact, at one point, the Pink Panther actually walks across the screen dressed as Mickey Mouse.
Is that that's not the Roberto Benigni one, is it?
No.
Because there was something similar like that in that one too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. This was when Sellers and Blake Edwards were still getting along before they had their falling out.
Well, there's one of them that he completed after Sellers died.
Oh, yeah. That one is fascinating because the very little portions of Sellers that are in it are outtakes. I mean, he literally had stuff left on the cutting room floor that he was able. What is that? Trail of the Pink Panther? Yeah. Not particularly good. But anyway, this time around, we have the gentleman who's bringing the Pink Panther back in the feature. This is the gentleman who directed Sonic the Hedgehog, which I'm not going to talk that film down because it was one of the very last films to get a traditional Hollywood release.
Yes.
January of this year, went out in theaters just before COVID changed the world.
Did you ever see it?
I have not. I'll add it to the pile for Thanksgiving Day. Add it to the pile. But speaking of which, since we last recorded a show, the world has changed. That announcement that Wonder Woman 1984 is not only going to be out in theaters Christmas Day?
Yes, Christmas Day. Yep.
Okay, Christmas Day. But it's also on the exact same day going to be available on HBO Max, which, remember, this is something that Bob Iger had been talking about with exhibitors for a decade, or more, to the effect of, let's shorten the theatrical window. Let's make films available at the exact same time in different formats. And what do you think about this?
It's just fascinating to me because I understand why they're doing it, because they need to get the movie out and theaters are obviously suffering. And so if there is a theater open, they can put it in there. The Universal stuff is really interesting to me too. Like Freaky will be on VOD 17 days after its release. And the Croods 2 will be on VOD by Christmas. So actually, you will still have a Croods versus Soul showdown, but on demand.
Now, speaking of which, I know from what I read over at Collider, you've already seen Croods and New Age, and you seem to like it quite a bit.
I liked it a lot, and they're actually doing a really fun thing in LA where you can actually go and watch it at Universal City Walk outside on the roof
Mhm.
of the parking structure.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have all these crazy, walk around characters and stuff. But I thought it was very clever. Joe Pitt, who is an amazing animator who worked on Gravity Falls, did a lot of stuff for it. And it's just really fun. It's exactly what you want. It's got a lot of gags. It's beautifully animated, great vocal performances. So I was very impressed. I did not expect to love it as much as I did.
Your review, you had very, very high praise for Nicolas Cage's vocal performance in this thing.
Yes. It's interesting to me that the least cartoony Nicolas Cage movies have actually been happening in cartoons. So, between this and Spider-Verse and Teen Titans Go to the Movies, he's done well for himself. But yeah, the whole movie is sort of from his perspective, which was very interesting. And I thought it was just great. I think you're going to like it a lot.
Speaking of wonderfully cartoony Nicolas Cage performances, did you see where, I forget which group is doing Raising Arizona? I think, they're reading it, as a Zoom thing. They're performing it as a play. Yeah, I want to say it's another fundraiser for Actors Equity, that sort of thing. But the press release just came through, and it was just the whole notion of, somebody is going to try to do what Nicolas Cage did in Raising Arizona. And after having watched what our buddy Josh Gad did in The Princess Bride, where he had to come in and channel Andre the Giant and did a wonderful job, that's hard to do.
Yeah, that should be fun, though.
What did you make of the other story that broke while we were away about how a number of things that Disney has in the works for theatrical release? We're talking about David Lowery, the gentleman who's doing Peter and Wendy, and how much you're looking forward to that. And Cruella's already in the can, right?
Yeah, Cruella's done. I forget who we were talking to about it, but I always talk to people on Light the Fuse, or if I'm doing something else, and I say, "Oh, you're working on such and such. How's that going?" And so somebody told me that Cruella turned out really well, and that they used the song. So, yeah. So something to look forward to, Jim.
All right.
Yeah.
But again, there was this article, and I want to say it was Deadline that put it out there. But again, it's Disney is considering shifting Peter and Wendy, Cruella, and this one kind of confused me. Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio, with supposedly starring Tom Hanks, that is being shifted away from theatrical release and will be over at Disney Plus. And you kind of called shenanigans on this, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like, what? One and Only Ivan was supposed to be theatrical. So was Hamilton. So was Artemis Fowl. And so was Magic Camp. Like, all of these things were supposed to be theatrical. And obviously, we're not getting out of this thing anytime soon. So, I think that decisions will be made when they're made. But I sort of don't think that something like Pinocchio would be pegged to Disney Plus already.
And it's interesting you say that, because it was striking to me in reading this Deadline piece that there was no mention of Little Mermaid. And that they had built the sets. They were, days out from starting shooting when COVID came down and shut everything down. And
yeah, I think they start shooting, I think, again this week. Or
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, they're up and running again in England. But, I think it is telling that the last $2 billion grossing remakes were from the 90s. Well, besides Jungle Book, which I think crossed $1 billion, all the remakes that were the really big hits were from the 90s, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King. And then something like Dumbo comes out and kind of fizzles. So maybe there will be tiers. I'm sure that they would have rather had Dumbo be on Disney Plus. But yeah, I liked Dumbo. I don't know what people's problems were.
For me, the whole issue was that the first film was this 64-minute long gem. This is as much story as there is to tell. And I have to admit, and forgive me the adult language, I admire the balls of basically making Walt Disney the villain of Dumbo. I mean, the Michael Keaton character who's, he's got his family fun park and brings in, Dumbo. And it's like only Tim Burton would dare to do that in a Disney film.
Right.
Tim Burton's one of these people where if he makes a movie, I'm showing up. But at the same time, Big Eyes. Did you
Yes.
ever see that one?
I actually saw a test screening of Big Eyes. I've never seen the finished version, so I did not see when they took out some of Danny Elfman's music to put a Lana Del Rey song in there.
Oh,
But
okay.
let me just say that I have done research in the time that we've been talking, and the reason that Tom and Jerry were in Disney MGM Studios is because the movie was distributed by Miramax.
There we go.
On the subject of the Weinsteins, which put out Big Eyes as well. I thought Big Eyes was fine, but I thought it should have been a better movie given the subject matter and the screenwriters and everything else.
Whenever Alice is out visiting, we invariably will go together to see Tim Burton movies. And we did Dark Shadows, we did Big Eyes. And in both cases, it's like even a Tim Burton movie that doesn't entirely work is more interesting than 90% of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, it's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Right?
I can guarantee you that's not going to end up on the box like your Coco quote. No. But I'm just saying, so. All right. Anyway, folks, we'll have even more talk about what's going on at Disney Plus when we get back from this break.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, new rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Watch Squid Game, The Challenge Season 2, only on Netflix November 4th.
Quick plug before we get started chatting here. I got sent a review copy of a brand new book that I'm sure animation fans are going to want to chase down. It is Wild Minds. Subtitle tells the story of the artists and the rivalries that inspired the golden age of animation. This is by Reed Mittenbuehler, and Reed knows his stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here, for example, about Art Babbitt in the middle of the Disney strike and him kind of going head to head with Walt. Likewise, discussions of UPA in the early days of Warner's, and this is the golden age of animation. This is, we're talking 30s roughly into the late 50s, early 60s. In fact, we were just talking about Hanna-Barbera and the impact when those guys were working and doing so much stuff for television animation. It really did impact what was going on with the features. But Reed does a very nice job. So if you're looking for something to get the animation fan on your Christmas list, this is worth checking out. Likewise, The Art of Pixar's Soul is out. And then, of course, there is this genuinely wonderful book, The Art of Onward, which, again, Black Friday special.
Yeah, pick it up. Less than $20 for that big old book is a good deal. I had a copy of The Art of Soul come to me from Chronicle, and somebody slid it down the middle and took the book out, Jim. So I have not looked at The Art of Soul yet. So
Oh my God.
The thief.
This makes me hesitant to mention that I did send you my copy of Onward for you to actually autograph.
Yes, I have it here. Yes, I need to send it back.
I go out to the
yeah.
mailbox. I open it. There is no box. I walk back. I'm depressed.
I know. It's terrible.
Folks, that's actual guilt you saw administered there. Let's see if it works. And while we were just talking about Thanksgiving and the holidays and that sort of thing, what did we think of the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special?
I really liked it. I thought the animation was really top notch. Some great vocal performances. In fact, I talked to Kelly Marie Tran last week and with an interview that it hasn't gone up yet. And I said, I think you had more lines in the Lego holiday special than you did in Rise of Skywalker. And she said, do we even have to count?
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I really do like a lot of the writing on the Lego Star Wars stuff. In fact, the team over there, I think, really doesn't get enough credit. I think that the folks at Lucasfilm really don't get enough credit because they are willing to, if you think about how fast and loose, well, just this holiday special plays with canon. For example, how grumpy the Emperor gets with Darth Vader's gift. It's like, the world's greatest Emperor. Did you even try?
I like how many references there are to the fact that the Emperor could never come back after what happened to him in Return of the Jedi.
Well, or more to the point, it's like what Darth Vader and the Emperor are hanging out with Kylo Ren is like, could you put on a shirt?
Yes.
No, it's seriously a great fun and worth it if you're a holiday fan. Just for the final image where it's Yoda dressed up as Sam the Snowman from Rudolph. And again, while we're talking about stuff over at Disney Plus, what did we make of the new documentary series Inside Pixar?
I thought it was really great. Did you like it?
I went in with the mental yardstick of, Leslie Owens did such an amazing job with the Imagineering story. And you and I have been covering Pixar for decades at this point, and we know the stories. We know, so there's like, oh boy, if they took an Imagineering story approach. And in fact, the irony is, remember, Leslie actually did do the Pixar story, but it just is like a 2-hour-long film.
Yeah, I think it's on the Wall-E Blu-ray.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I was going into it with that mindset, but these shorter, focused on individual artists or people who worked at Pixar was just as fascinating, or if not more so.
Yeah, I agree. You can get through all 5 of the first batch in about an hour. There are so many more coming though. So, get ready, including one about how they finished Soul remotely. So I can't wait to see that. But anyway, yeah, I think the subjects they chose were really great. I think that the Jessica Haidt story about how she devised a program to track the gender imbalance of Pixar screenplays is amazing. I thought that was so cool. And Jim, what did you think? Did you catch the creatures from Luca in Deanna's episode?
The next time I'm up in Emeryville, I want to hang with Deanna. I love her clothes. I love her wardrobe. I love her attitude. But yeah, I love that was buried in there. And, first of all, her trip to Italy, to the seaside village to sort of capture the flavor and capture the Italian people for Luca. But yeah, to actually get to see the little boy creature, the friend creature, it's like, ooh, that looks interesting.
Yeah. And how good was the Kemp short about the barbershop?
Oh, God.
He is a joy, Jim.
Is he really?
Is so great. And I've already said how much I love Soul on this show, but that sequence is absolutely amazing. And so to be able to go behind the scenes of that, I thought was super, super powerful.
I also have to ask the whole Dan Scanlon one where he's talking about coming up with the story of Onward.
Right.
And no pressure on the brother, that last shot of the entire crew, everybody in the theater for the crew screening of Onward, and the brother who inspired the story, who has not seen any of the movie. It's like, my brother's here, and it's the first time you've seen the movie. And it's like, you got to imagine at the party after the crew screening, how many people came up to him, oh, come on. What'd you think? Was it good? I think,
He didn't look that enthusiastic about it at the end. I was kind of like, ooh. But
you're not wrong. I was kind of interpreting the same thing, like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, they're really great. And then Stephen Hunter, who directed Out. You've watched Out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a wonderful short. And he's hilarious and wonderful. Yeah.
The mom in that thing is so killer. And how funny was it that pizza casserole actually exists?
I want it, Jim.
No, that's the other thing. I think that's it. My one complaint about that you can't show that being made and not share the recipe. Come on, it's documentary 101. Just make the recipe aware so therapists can clearly eat this meal that would then make us sit on the couch for roughly 8 to 10 hours because nobody's going to move after eating something quite that heavy.
Right.
So there's only 5 of them so far that are available on Disney Plus. And you mentioned that there's a lot more coming, or?
There are a lot more coming. Yeah, I think the next batch is called Portraits.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think they've been working on these for the last couple of years, so there's a lot. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of really cool stuff coming out from that. And I welcome it. I love the length. I love how specific they are and how inspiring they are. I think it's great.
Okay. Well, speaking of things we should all be looking forward to, Drew has been working on the definitive history of Rescuers Down Under. And
what people really want, Jim, the definitive history of Rescuers Down Under.
Now you see, you're joking, but I have a lot of affection for this film. I always felt so bad because it fell into that gulf between The Little Mermaid in 89 and Beauty and the Beast in 91. And that coupled with the fact that The Prince and the Pauper featurette that played in front of it really, that's fallen through the cracks as well. I mean, it's so strange that this really well done film, which has, the story may not hang together, as well, certainly not as well as the original Rescuers from 77, but there are masterful sequences in this thing. I mean, the Marahudi flight scene, or how the message that the little boy needs to be rescued travels around the globe.
Oh, I love that scene. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love, yeah. And the Marahudi sequence, that was boarded by Brenda Chapman. And I think the flight sequence was boarded by Chris Sanders.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I talked to Brenda recently, and she said that in that sequence that she boarded where the kid comes to Marahudi and the eagle kind of explains what happened and the father's been killed and there's eggs and all that, was actually the eagle talked when she got the scene.
Wow.
And she said, no, I don't think that's going to work. And she boarded this scene brilliantly with the help of Glenn Keane. And it was based on some footage she had seen from a true life adventure that Roy had done of an eagle,
cool.
which is really interesting. And so these are the kind of stories you're going to get, Jim.
And again, you have to be an old fart like me to have been in a theater in 1990 and sat down, and when that opening happened, and again, I'm dating myself because I'm going to call it Ayers Rock, the huge rock formation that, in the middle of the Australian outback. But that scene where the camera is flying over the poppy fields, it's all CG, but it's this amazing camera move.
Well, and the moment right before that camera move starts is basically the rack focus from the beginning of Lion King that people lost their minds over.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, with the
little bug.
Yeah. And that coupled with the fact that you got Bob Newhart back with this wonderful backward spin on every line for Bernard, or likewise Ava Gabor.
I heard a good story about Bob Newhart, Jim, which is that they tried to get him to do lines differently. And he said, I could do it again, but it's pretty much going to be the same as this. It's like, yeah, I'll do it again, but there's not going to be much. Like he so knew his sort of comic timing.
No. So, yeah. Absolutely. But on the other hand, the stories I've heard about John Candy working on this thing, did anybody talk about working with John? Or
yeah, he was supposedly just a delight. I talked to Mike Gabriel about him, and he was just, everybody loved him. And obviously, had things been differently, Mike Gabriel would have worked with him again.
Yeah, that's, in fact, it's kind of ironic, folks, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, because what Drew's referring to is if things had gone a different way, Pocahontas would have had a turkey friend called Red Feather that John, I want to say John actually did record some stuff for it right before we lost it.
Yeah, I think there's test footage somewhere. I know I've seen, on YouTube before they strike it down. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, now speaking of which, again, not to give anything away, but you had that amazing story about it's this time 30 years ago, and Rescuers Down Under has come out and just didn't do the business. And poor Mike Gabriel goes home to spend time with his family over Thanksgiving. And
Yeah, the movie had been massacred. There was a little movie that nobody expected to be a hit called Home Alone that opened and absolutely killed everything in its path. And when you read my story, you'll actually hear about a time when Mike Gabriel and Macaulay Culkin crossed paths many years later, but I will not ruin that story now.
Wow.
But yes, so Mike Gabriel is devastated. I mean, he is absolutely distraught. By the Wednesday after the movie opened, they'd already pulled all advertisements for it. There were 44 million McDonald's toys in circulation at that point, and they had just given up on the movie. So he goes home for Thanksgiving, and he is very honest, and he makes a list of things that the movie didn't have that Disney classics did have. And actually, if you read Eisner's book, he talks about these things too, that it didn't have a song, it didn't have memorable characters, this, that, and the other. And so he's at his sister's house for Thanksgiving, and he looks at the bookshelf and he pulls down a copy of Pocahontas and he says, "This will be the next movie, and everything that I did not have in that first movie, I will have in this new one."
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Wow.
Yeah.
And there'll be lots and lots and lots of great stories about The Rescuers Down Under. A film that seriously deserves more love.
Bruce Broughton's score. I mean, come on.
Yes. How many times did you hear that music pulled for either trailers or other projects? People in the industry recognized what it was. The audiences didn't show up.
Yeah.
But again, folks, that'll be hopefully showing up later this week, if not early next week.
Yes.
So keep an eye on Collider over there. But until then, Drew, if people are looking for other entertaining things, what's going on with Light the Fuse these days?
Oh, we're just trying, my co-host is about to have a baby, so we are just churning through episodes over there. But did you listen to the Michael Giacchino? Did you get the Space Mountain story, Jim?
Can you do a Reader's Digest version of that?
Yes. Basically,
okay.
They hired him to do the music for Space Mountain, but they said, "Oh, our Space Mountain is actually in pieces right now because it's being renovated. So let's go to Tokyo instead, because that's basically the same layout." And they said, "Well, why don't we stop in Paris on the way? We've got to do something else. You can take a look at that Space Mountain too while we're at it." So for one project that is a total of, I think, 1.5 minutes of music, he got to go all the way around the world. And it's a very funny story that he tells a lot better than I do, but it's pretty cool. And I think towards the end of January, we're starting the John Wick miniseries, which will knock your socks off. It's really good. So I'm really excited about that. And then hopefully in the summer, we will be doing one for Top Gun 2 called Light the Fuselage. So get ready for that.
Okay. All right. Start the merch now. That's great. Okay. Okay. Well, once you finish listening to the latest Light the Fuse, we also have a few podcasts over here. We've got Disney Dish with Len Testo. We've got Universal Giant with Dustin Fuse. We've got Looking at Lucasfilm. I'm doing a few more of those with Dan Z. We have the Marvelous Disney podcast, which I do with Aaron Adams. And I Want That with Shelley Valladolid, and we're getting ready for our big Black Friday show. So hopefully that'll be available to listen to shortly. If you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and recommend both Light the Fuse as well as Fine Tuning, that would be very helpful. If you want to subscribe over at Bandcamp, that would be killer. Can you tell them where they can find you online, Drew?
Yes, this is Drew Tailored, like a tailored suit, on Twitter. And I'm picking fights with people and sharing old images of Epcot. Is basically, those are my two default modes, I think, on Twitter. But yeah, you can see everything that I'm writing there, which is a lot. But yeah, have fun.
For us, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and then on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. That will do it for tonight. So thanks for listening, and Drew and I will be back soon.